off the plane. Light them up, let's make them sing. Fire the cannons, fire the cannons, fire the cannons. On Bucs, yeah, we on. Fire the cannons, fire the cannons, fire the cannons. The whole field's our red zone. Let me give you 55 reasons why this is our season. Palm trees breezing, opposing teams bleeding.
I have missed this so much. Welcome, everybody, to Buc What You Heard. My name is Gene. You can reach me at Buc What You Heard. You follow me, and I'll follow you back. I've been talking some random stuff this offseason, not too much football, but we're back, baby. We are back, and I'm joined by my man, the man with the plan, KB, Ken Barrett, not to be mistaken for Shaq Barrett. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. As you can tell, there's been some changes in the background, but we're all good to go on this end, on this side of the screen.
I'm loving it, man. I'm loving it. How's life treating you? Everything good?
Oh, yeah, we good, man.
All right.
It's beautiful outside up in Raleigh, North Carolina, and we're good to go, man.
It's crazy. We are getting that much closer to football, real football, total leather. Kick the ball, let's go. YouTube, TV, live, NFL Sunday ticket, whatever. We're here. And today we're going to discuss some things. I've been away, and I've kind of taken we have been away, but we're back, and we're doing the thing like we've been doing, and we're going to talk about stuff that listeners want to talk about. So we've discussed this as ad nauseum, and I know a lot of other investors have as well, about Tom Brady being gone, and we're on to the next part of this. So
is Tom gone?
Part of,
is that fully
what the
settled?
Bucs are going to.
That's the question.
Oh yeah, it's settled. I think it is.
I don't know, man. Did you see what happened with Jimmy? And
I don't know. He didn't pass his physical, right?
No. Yep. So quarterback, they can get out of this contract. Yeah,
I can see that happening. And please don't talk about him coming to Tampa, please. We've got enough.
We don't have the cap space. Unless they could figure out some way to push it off. Like, I don't know how.
Yeah, and as Michael Pless says, the cap is a myth. So, it is a myth. But
it is a myth, but the Bucs have like 200,000. Like, they got
I will say this. We got to look forward to next year, because I believe that there will be more cap space next year as compared to
next year or the year after, Gene. Are we writing off this year yet? Or
let me say this. I'm not writing off anything. I know that if you follow me on Twitter, I wasn't like on the hype train for, the Bucs quarterback situation as it stands. And I forgot who it was that said, when you have two quarterbacks, you don't have any quarterbacks. So
a lot of smart people said that, at least. I don't know who said it, but a lot of smart people did.
Yeah. So to me, I want this to be a successful season. Christopher Cole, what's going on, man? Welcome back. But I want this to be a successful season, man. I mean, regardless of what happens, I don't think the Bucs are going to be at the bottom of the league. And I'll tell you a few reasons why. We should get, at some point in the season, a healthy Shaq Barrett who's recovering from that catastrophic injury. Ryan Jensen, we should be getting Ryan Jensen back from the injury that he suffered. And these are two key pieces that have made the Bucs offense and defense play better than what we've seen over the last season. So Ryan Jensen was sorely missed. And I strongly believe that there are games that the Bucs could have won. And I can't just put it, I know it's a team effort, but there's that cohesion that you normally have with players that to your left or to your right. So, getting him back is going to be huge for this offensive line.
Yeah, that's a leader right there.
Yeah, absolutely. And you could tell when you don't have a leader, you could tell it shows. It's just glaring what you don't have there. So getting Ryan Jensen back, Tristan Wirfs, I'm excited to see, the next steps for Tristan Wirfs. And I think, getting Jensen back and, he's going to be playing a new position, allegedly.
Left tackle, baby.
Allegedly. So I don't know. This is gonna be a bumpy ride here. I'm just, I think the first couple of games, I think preseason is going to be important. These guys getting all the snaps and getting used to each other is going to be huge. So I don't know. I just think that with the addition of Jensen coming back and just helping the new quarterback come in, whether it's Baker or Trask, whoever's behind center or under center, I should say, is going to be huge, getting them acclimated to this new offense. Speaking of, I mean, we've seen some of the reports. What are your thoughts, just based on what you've heard? You can't put a lot of stock in preseason, so folks out there listening, you got to take it with a grain of salt, as we're talking about.
One, I can't make fun of Trask and Baker for missing some guys wide open in warm-ups. We can't talk about those circulating clips, but I mean, no, I mean, the Bucs right now, Gene, you were talking about it earlier. I mean, what are we going to define a successful season as this year? Is a successful season making the playoffs? Is a successful season, being on the verge of, maybe a 500 season, maybe sneaking into, a weak NFC playoff picture? To me, that's about what the from a successful season standpoint. If this team wins 7 games, think about it. If you put Tom Brady on any team in the NFL, I mean, take him off of it and they only lose 3 wins. Like, you know what I mean? That's, excuse me, it'd be only 1 or 2 wins from our, down season last year. So, I mean, like, let's say Tom Brady's typically is we'll throw Byron Leftwich off the plane. Let's say last year was a 10-win season. Like, you know what I mean? So it's just like, hey, if we win 7-8 games with this roster as it's currently constructed, with, very limited space and salary to really bring back some key pieces, like Brady, that are no longer with us. We lost a lot of veterans. I mean, Levante David's like literally the oldest guy on the team right now. And everyone that was older than him, even guys like Ryan Suckup, none of those guys have really signed anywhere. Like Blaine's a backup in KC. Gio retired. Like, you know what I mean? So it's just like this team shedded a lot. Hakeem Hicks isn't signed. This team shedded a lot of players that started and played very important snaps last year. So you have to come in with the expectation of, we want to see, what they do at the quarterback position. I'm assuming it's going to be Baker. If Trask does come in, what does he look like? Whether that be in the preseason, regular season. Where's that progression coming from? I think the offense is going to progress. The defense has to at least maintain of what they did last year, which I think they had a pretty good year last year. So, again, it's going to come down to how these coaches coach and how these players respond.
Yeah. And speaking of the head coach, let's talk about Todd Bowles. I mean, where is your confidence level on a scale of 1 to 10 with Todd Bowles, just based on what you saw last year? I know that, being objective, you can look at it one of 2 ways. Todd Bowles came in with somebody else's team and played with somebody else's team for the most part, the majority of the players that were out there. However, it's what you do with what you have that puts you as a successful coach or an unsuccessful coach. And some of the calls towards the end of close games is very concerning to me going into this season, because I'm expecting a coach to go out there and, wanting to try to win these games and not being, I understand there are times where you have to be strategic, but we saw some games where, the Bucs had the momentum, and there were times where I thought the Bucs were going to either go for it or, they ended up playing super conservative. And the NFL is not the old NFL where conservative can win you games, whereas you see people that are just going for it. And I would expect them to have a little bit more confidence. Hopefully he'll have more confidence in the new offensive coordinator to
see. And that to me is where the answer lies, because from an offensive standpoint, we talk about when you're typically making those types of decisions, what's typically going on, like where's that momentum swinging? The offense didn't have much, if any, momentum in any game last year. Maybe the Seattle game, but then what do? We throw the Leonard Fournette interception to Tom Brady of all plays. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, momentum is a thing that Todd Bowles, as a head coach, has not been able to, in my opinion, get the fair shake. I mean, I think if you had criticism for what occurred last year, I think it's fair. I think if I'm the head coach and I don't trust the offensive coordinator, you got to cut bait. That's at least my opinion. But Byron Leftwich not being signed by any NFL or college team, I think speaks volumes. So I think a lot of this season is going to come down to what is Dave Canales? Is Dave Canales a very good teacher who's going to be a very successful QB coach for the rest of his NFL coaching career? Is he going to be an offensive coordinator that can turn around a terrible offense like the Bucs, what we had last year? Or is he going to be the next, like, Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan? If he turns the Bucs around and the Bucs, let's say, come out, get 10 wins, Dave Canales is going to be a head coach next year. So, a lot of what's going to happen this year is going to come down to what Dave Canales is. What's up, Josh? And then from defensively, I think we can know what to expect from a Todd Bowles coach defense. As long as they're healthy, I think we can at least reasonably expect them to play up to par.
I hear you say Dave Canales is going to be a head coach next year.
No. If the Bucs win 10 games, or you know what I mean, like if they come out, the offense looks like 2020 in the 10-game win streak. You know what I mean? Like that's where I'm saying we're talking about where the season can go, and my opinion is it really comes down to how quickly Dave Canales can get the system and get the players comfortable in the system, and then be able to execute consistently. And if he does it quickly, and he turns around a guy like Baker Mayfield after already doing Geno and gets the Bucs to 9-10 wins, I mean, I think people know what Todd Bowles is, and if the Bucs have a good season and the offense is humming, Dave Canales will get the credit across the league.
Yeah, I can see.
Yeah, he is the unknown right now, and it's going to be really interesting to see what kind of plays he dials up. I know that right now everything's pretty vanilla, and you're just basically going through, working on fundamentals and stuff like that right now. So I'm excited to see what he rolls out, when the regular season starts.
Yeah, I would agree. I've been reviewing some Seahawks tapes from last year, and it's a fun system. It's really fun to watch some of the things they do, spacing, creating leverage, yards after catch, counters, play action, things that Bucs fans are not familiar with in the last couple of years.
Qual S, what is that?
And if you don't, and folks, if you don't know, I have Josh Capo on from Pewter Report. Yeah,
that's what we're calling it this
Pewter
week.
Report. No, I'm just joking.
I was about to say, was that a question mark?
It's been so long since I've seen the guy. I mean, I didn't even recognize. I'm like, who's this guy coming on here? But no, seriously, glad to have you on, man. I mean, I've really enjoyed what you've been doing in the off season, man. You mean like one of the few bright lights in all the negativity and drama and everybody going back and forth. I think I really appreciate what you and the whole company basically have done, as far as, unbiased, reporting on what's going on. So I appreciate
that. And he's got some really good video breakdowns of the system, what kind of to expect on Pewter Report. So make sure you guys check.
Now let me ask.
Thank you for saying I was a bright light, because after I put out my NFC South quarterback rankings, I think Bucs fans are coming to my head. What do you mean Baker's not the best guy in the entire division? Third. But
it is what it is, man. I think
third. I think people should at least be like, okay, he's not the worst.
Yeah. No, I am looking forward to the season. Now that we've gotten past all the boring, there's nothing going on, let's make something up and let's have an argument about it, and it turns into the Bucs Twitter civil wars that we have every offseason. So I'm just happy that we're getting to a point where we have something of substance to talk about. And I know you missed it, but I do want to get your thoughts on Devin White. As I mentioned before, and please, this is a safe zone. There's nothing wrong with with you saying what you say. I feel like Devin White has not been very professional, and this is gonna upset a lot of people. But this reminds me of when Gerald McCoy went to Carolina and the messy way that he left the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with the fans, with ownership.
I think he was. I personally, I mean, Gerald. I mean, what are you supposed to say? You were the franchise player for a decade, and he cut you. I mean, like,
you know, my thing is you go out and play, and you let your play do the talking through the season. Then at the end of the season, you know, maybe you can say something. You may have something to say. Look what I did this season. Let my numbers speak for themselves. But you got fans that rode with you throughout injuries and throughout, you know, down seasons, and there was a lot of stuff going on, and you pretty much gave him the middle finger when you left the way you left. And that's kind of how I look at it. But, you know, he's back. Everybody likes him. All's forgiven with everybody, most everybody. So, you know, that's kind of where we are. But with what Devin White is doing right now, it's divisive. And I just, you know, I feel bad. I wish the Bucs would. I don't want this to be a distraction. And I feel like this is my concern. Yeah,
so this is going to be a fun one for me because I'm just reminded of, I think it's a scene from The Office where Michael Scott's like, oh, how the turntables have turned. My first 2 articles with Pewter Report a little over a year ago were both about how I didn't think Devin White should get the franchise or the 5th-year option picked up, which the Bucs then did. And then I said they were wrong to do it. And at least within, I would say, from what I've seen from most fans, and even within the Pewter Report circle, because I know, you know, Scott Reynolds has put a couple different things out there about how he doesn't agree with how Devin has handled himself and kind of lining up with your thinking there, Gene. I'm on the other side of that. The collective bargaining agreement provides very little opportunity for players to be able to control their destiny. Okay.
Right.
From Devin White's perspective, he has played to the point where he should be paid as a top 5 to 10 linebacker in the league. And, you know, we're all working off of the number he threw out 5 years ago, right? The pre-draft process, he said, I'm going to be $100 million. There's no confirmation that that's the number he is striving for right now, right? It's just all of us, myself included, saying, well, that's what he wanted 5 years ago. Roquan just got 100 mil. 100 mil would basically put him with Roquan or a little bit above Roquan if he got a little over 100 million. Plus, that he would set the record, right? Or set the market. Devin could be looking for 80 million over 5 years, which is like 16 million AAV, which again, very well paid for his position, but not necessarily the biggest one. But he certainly can make the case that he's a top 10 linebacker. He's, from a statistical standpoint, there are things that he does better than anybody else at his position, namely rushing the quarterback as a blitzing linebacker. Nobody does it as well as Devin White. That is a fact. Okay.
Yeah.
Athletic skills, very few linebackers are on his level. Now, it's been well documented. I've been part of it. There's a big lapse in his game, and it's one of the most important things for linebackers in today's NFL, and that's coverage. Okay. Mm-hmm. But from Devin's perspective, he is one major injury away from losing his payday. Yeah. He wants generational wealth. He wants long-term security. We all do, right? Now, you look at his what levers can he pull to get that? Okay. If the contract negotiations, if they're so far apart, right? Mm-hmm. And he wants that bag before this season starts and he could get that injury and lose everything, right? Mm-hmm. He's only got a couple of options. Publicly request a trade and hope that a team gives the Bucs an offer that makes them go, yeah, no, this is better than 1 year of Devin White. And then hold in. And we're not sure if he's holding in because he didn't participate in the optional off-season program. The Bucs coaching staff doesn't want to throw him into live play because they're not sure if he's in correct shape. So we don't know right now if it's a hold in like Roquan Smith did last year. Mm-hmm. Okay, but he's following the Roquan Smith playbook from 1 year ago. Roquan got a 5th-year option, didn't want to play on it, wanted his long-term deal from the Bears. They didn't want to give it to him. Public requested a trade, held in, ended up playing the front half of the season, and then got traded to Baltimore and got his bag. Devin's just following that playbook. We can analyze whether the Bucs should give in and give him the contract that he desires. We can analyze whether they should trade him, although the floor for that trade is the compensational pick that they'll get next year, which is basically a third rounder. So a team offering the Bucs anything less than a third rounder next year, they say, well, we can get 1 year of Devin White, let him go without any financial penalty next year and still get that third round pick. So from my perspective, and keep in mind, Devin White from my perspective, he's done everything he can within the limits he's been given. Okay. This is a business from the team's perspective. Fans have an emotional attachment to the team. For Devin White, this is his life. And he's got to do what's best for him. He's got to do what's best for his family. He's showed up when he was required to show up. And he's going to play his best this year because he wants his money. Yeah. That's what Bucs fans should want. They should want their middle linebacker to play at his best. And they're going to get his best because he's got every incentive to play his best. That's my take on it. The turntables have turned because now I'm the Devin White apologist.
Can I be the turntable here? Real quick?
I wouldn't say you're an apologist. I mean, what you said makes 100% sense. From my perspective, he has to know whether he's talking with his agents, he's talking with the front office, whatever's going on. He has to know they're not going to move him. At this point,
I don't think it's about moving him right now, because keep in mind where the team likely will. Most odds makers, power rankings, everywhere you look outside of Bucs Twitterverse, the Bucs are in play for Drake May or Caleb Williams next year, right? So you get to the trade deadline and you've got an expiring asset and probably not a real chance at making the playoffs from that perspective. You want to get something for Devin White. And if you can get more than a third round pick, you do it. So the trade request wasn't necessarily for this offseason. It's to build a case to potentially get traded at the deadline.
There you go.
For the turntables, that's where the Bucs, I think, have handled this situation beautifully. I mean, if people want to play the overreact game, I mean, look what happened with the Bills yesterday. From day one of Devin White, tweeting or Instagram, whatever it was about the Philadelphia Eagles, possibly going there, wanting to go there, that started, right before the draft. And then, Jenna Lane, gets the information that he's requesting a trade. Bucs basically deny everything, go through the draft, same as usual. This whole situation's happening. Hey, Devin, just come in. It's mandatory minicamp. We don't want this to be a big stink. They pretty much just talked him up the entire offseason. Other than his middle linebackers coach saying, he's got champagne problems, and Levante David weighed in a little bit today. Other than that, top of the organization, Todd Bowles, Jason Light. He's still getting glowing reviews.
Right.
They understand his situation. They're being, empathetic, but also publicly just saying, hey, you play well. You're putting yourself in a quite the situation there where we might not have a choice.
So is there
the last thing I'll say on it, or it doesn't have to be the last thing, but I'll add to it. And this is for anybody watching or anybody. Have you ever felt undervalued by the company you work for? And if you have, did you go out and say glowing things about them while you felt undervalued? You probably didn't.
Did you apply to other companies?
Right. You probably didn't go out and trash them. You probably tried to look out there and see if somebody else would value you better. How is that any different from what Devin White's doing? He's doing it while making 8 figures, and that's where everybody gets caught up, where they go, well, he's making so much more money than I am, so F him. Sure, he's making more than you, but he's making it in a market where he feels undervalued. And there's a good chance next year, whoever he signs with, he's going to make more than $11 million, and that's what he's making this year. So he's undervalued.
Absolutely. And you never know. He may go to a team where they can, make sure that he's not having to do that much pass coverage. They may be able to utilize him a little bit better than what he's being used here, I guess.
Well, the Bucs actually do a pretty good job of trying to cover that up. They put him in a lot of advantageous positions, and that's why he's been able to get some of the accolades that he has. So
look at what's in front of him and what's next to him is to continue on from Josh's point there.
You let him run, you play the flat, run the pipe in cover 2 and blitz a lot, and he's at his best. Just don't let him drop into cover 3. That's where he gets a little confused.
And don't let him play man.
Yeah.
So, we'll move on from here. But one final question. I mean, is he worth that max contract?
$100 million? No. I don't mind.
I'm just basing and what I'm basing this on is I know that his ability to get to the quarterback, pressure the quarterback is just incredible. That's a given right there.
Sure.
But when you look at his whole body of work and we talk about consistency, like throughout the whole season, is he that guy that you can depend on all 17 games? I mean, that his play won't drop off, if you know what I mean.
The max contracts have been and should be reserved for guys who've proven they can play in coverage. That's what separates the top 5 to 7 linebackers from the rest. And you see it in the linebacker market, even this past free agency. Mm-hmm. It's almost like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde market, right? It's not linear. It's not a linear market where, you're 80% better, 80% as good as the top guy. So you're going to get 80% of the money that the top guy gets. It's You're either in this top tier or your value falls way, way off. That's how the NFL,
especially for that position,
right?
Compared to corner or wide receiver, it's different. But for linebacker, that's how it's going.
If I were an NFL GM and Devin White was on the free market, I'd probably offer him somewhere between 12.5 and 14 million a year.
But there's going to be someone who's going to probably give him 15. But that's my final offer and what I'd give him, and I'd be okay if he didn't accept it. Yeah.
So the athletic traits are still there, and there's been they did some work over at, I want to say, Pro Football Focus a couple years ago, that linebackers really don't kind of hit that developmental level until around year 6. So Devin's still got, there still is a case to be made that he's not there yet. He's not where he could be or where he's going to be. And so he's definitely, plus pulling on my angst with Anthony Nelson comments.
I had to put that up there.
So there is a case to be made that he's going to be better than he is. And with his athletic traits and with some of the things that he can do at an elite level, I think 12.5 to 14 million a year, depending on the guarantees and the length, isn't out of line, right? And that certainly wouldn't be in line with his PFF grade, but I think that it's a good combination of all the things that he can be and what he is and what he does well and what he doesn't do well.
And also you got to keep in mind, if they, let's say, sign him for 15 mil, Levante's not going to be around very often, or for very long. So, Seversi, Dennis is on the roster. They probably draft a guy. They wouldn't be spending much else at that position, which at least allows you to swallow that pill a little bit more. So,
and this is kind of where I was kind of going with that. How do you view Devin White when Levante David is out? When he was injured, how did you view his play?
Watch the Jets 2021 tape.
He needs Levante, or a Levante type player. He needs a very cerebral guy who can do a lot of things, which frees Devin up to do what he does best. So that's why, I don't think Servassier playing next to Devin White is a really great pairing, because the two of them do the same things well, and they don't do the same, or they do the same things poorly as well.
Yeah. And that's where I was kind of going with that, because if he's on a team and he's the guy, he's the man, and he's got somebody that's kind of limited, but will he be able to do the same things that he's doing here in Tampa?
No. I mean, the defense would suffer in that situation. So, I mean, Levante is Devin White's best friend on the field.
Yeah, he's a special player. We all know that.
Yep.
But just the way he plays and what he brings to the linebacker position, I think they complement each other very well. And again, I saw it. What I've seen from Devin White when he doesn't have a Levante on the field is it's a little bit different than seeing a Devin White with a Levante on the field. And I'll just put it that way.
And that's for everybody around Levante. Levante is clairvoyant on the field. He really is. He sees things nobody else sees, and he gets to places that he has no business being.
So it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out in the next season. But, whether he stays or whether he goes, I just hope that there's continuity on that defensive side of the ball. Have we heard how KB is doing?
KJ Britt?
No, Bennett. I'm sorry, Bennett. How is he?
Bennett.
Barrett. I'm Shaq Barrett. Golly, I'm.
Oh my God.
I don't know. I just had this
mistaken with Shaq Barrett.
Yeah.
Zero,
I'm sitting here.
Zero judgment from me, dude. I'm writing articles going, "Who's this guy?" Hold on.
No,
I'm
so
looking
crazy.
up depth charts for a team that I follow 24/7.
This is what happened.
I'm like, oh yeah, Logan Hall.
So I'm like, don't say Michael Bennett. Don't say Michael Bennett. Please don't say Michael Bennett. And then I say Michael Bennett. And I'm trying to get it all worked out here in my head, and it just didn't happen. But Shaq Barrett. Back to Shaq Barrett.
So
how is he healing? Is he going to be ready, or what are we looking at here?
Shaq said on another fan podcast a few weeks ago that he's running, he feels great, like the Achilles is fine. The Bucs, I think Scott published the insider, last couple of insiders. He's not participating in team drills right now. He's off on a separate field, working out on his own, but doing a lot of movement stuff, running, things like that. So it looks like relative to where he should be it looks pretty good. The big thing is a lot of guys come back from an Achilles based on when he was injured. I think I wrote an article about this early in the off season. There's a good chance that he'll be ready for opening day in terms of actually being able to play. At what level is a whole nother story. Typically with an Achilles injury, it takes 2 years for the explosiveness to come back to that part of the body.
And not when they're 31 generally either.
Yeah, and when you looked at his game is predicated on his get off and that twitch, the ankle flexion, it's very telling that the Bucs have not restructured his contract to free up cap space, because it gives them an opportunity for a fairly clean break in 2024. And I don't have high hopes for his production this year.
That's fair. That's totally fair, especially with a catastrophic injury like that. TB2 Crew said, what is the strategy for the future if Levante David retires and White's gone? What's next? Because this could set back the franchise. I think that Jason Light's done a very good job with linebackers. I know that we were very fortunate to get a Devin White, to have him the way we did, and for him to end up with a Levante David on the same field. So we've been very fortunate here, and spoiled basically over the past few years. So again,
I think Levante was before Light, right? So he was 2012 draft pick. So he's kind of had that safety net for the entirety of his career. Light has.
Exactly.
However,
Levante was Graciano.
He found Quan Alexander in the third round. And
the other LSU guy in the third round too that hurt his ankle.
There's a lot to like about Servassier Dennis. I think we were going back and forth on this earlier today. He's just going to need some time, right? He's still a 5th round pick, lots of athletic ability. I think he could be a starter in the league, but it's probably not till 2024 or beyond, maybe even 2025. It's a really difficult position to play. I would argue it's probably the second hardest position to play in the NFL right now, behind quarterback, because so many things going on for the quarterback. But trying to play linebacker is extremely difficult. Now, with that said, there are lots of defenses that perform awfully well without elite linebacker play. The Eagles, in a Fangio-style defense with modest linebacker play, just went to the Super Bowl, right? So, and they've shown that they don't prioritize linebackers at all.
And
So-
what did they do again this draft? Huh? They went D tackle and edge in the first round.
Right. So you can put together a serviceable linebacking crew and still have a very good defense. The hallmarks for great defenses really are pass rush and or secondary. So
Yep. So that's just going to be key. As long as you're getting pressure on the quarterback, I think that's the key right there. This
To me,
season,
that's what's to look out for the first month of the year, because again, you don't know what Shaq's going to be. So, is JTS going to, be able to finish, at the point of attack and actually get some pressure and some sacks? Is, one of these rookies, going to step up early? Is there going to be interior pressure with Cansey? Like, this is going to be a big thing to look out.
Yeah, I've got a fun one for you guys. So I've been doing a series, right, where I'm ranking the different position groups in the NFC South.
Mhm.
So I'm going to read off to you the defensive lines for each of the NFC South teams. And I want to see what you guys think in terms of the rankings of who will be first through fourth. So you're both pretty familiar with the Bucs, right? I don't need to go through the Bucs defensive line depth chart, right? So we'll start with Atlanta. So their edge group is Bud Dupree, Arnold Ebiketie, former second-round pick from just last year, right? Lorenzo Carter.
Guy.
And I can't pronounce this guy's name very well. Adetokunbo Ogundeji, right?
okay.
And then their interior is Grady Jarrett, David Onyemata, Calais Campbell, Eddie Goldman. Oh, and I forgot, third-round draft pick for the edge, Zach Harrison out of Ohio State. Now, Carolina, their edge group is Brian Burns, Yetur Gross-Matos, Marquise Haynes Sr., E.J. Johnson, who they surprisingly drafted in the third round, and Amari Barno. And then their interior group is Derek Brown, Shai Tuttle, Deshaun Williams, and Bravion Roy. And then New Orleans, edges are Cam Jordan, Carl Granderson, Isaiah Foskey, Peyton Turner, and Tano Passanwa. And then their interior group is Brian Brzee, Kalen Saunders, Nathan Shepard, and Malcolm Roach. So listening to all those names, thinking about it, who do you think would have the best defensive line in the NFC South?
I think you have to take the Saints out of it, personally. I think they're pretty clearly 4 after losing Onyemata, and that edge room is pretty unspectacular. Atlanta, like I said before you started reading off that list, that interior is pretty freaking scary.
I'm thinking between Carolina and Atlanta would
for
probably
the top
be
spot?
Yeah, for the top spot.
Interesting.
So yeah, I'd probably put Atlanta 1. I think it's a coin flip really between the Bucs and the Panthers. I'm a Bucs fan, but also I'm probably overplaying Vita Vea in my head. It's kind of like the difference maker between Panthers and Bucs. I think the Bucs also have a little bit more depth at the edge position. Brian Burns is great. I don't think I think he's a little overrated for me personally. And I think Vita Vea is over Derek Brown there. Shaq, again, you kind of don't know. So I still think it's a coin flip. I'd probably just give edge Bucs, but anyone for saying Panthers.
If Josh hadn't had the conversation about Shaq Barrett, I would have gone Bucs, then Carolina, then Atlanta, or Carolina, Atlanta, somewhere off in there. But with not knowing what you have with Shaq Barrett at the beginning of the season, I know that he's going to come on, I'm sure. But that's kind of why I had to switch. And I've been paying attention to Carolina. I've been paying attention to more of the NFC South in what they're doing. So I'm not sure.
All right. So I'll give you guys a preview on how I'm ranking them. So the Bucs, to me, have the best defensive line group. Okay. So I'll give you a little bit of why. So Shaq Barrett easily has the highest pressure rate out of any edge rusher in the NFC South over the last 3 years, right? Yes, G Vegas, Kendall Beckwith, 5th round draft pick. Unfortunately, that car wrecked his career. And he was doing pretty well. So Shaq Barrett's pressure rate over the last 3 years, even with the down year last year leading into the Achilles tear, 14.65%. So if he's even 2/3 of what he was, that's still a 10% pressure rate.
10%, yeah.
Okay. The other number one edge rushers in each of the rooms, the only one who would be better than that is Brian Burns at 12.5%. All right. Bud Dupree is at 10.2%. Okay. And on the
that's better than I thought he had. Interesting.
Yep. And Cam Jordan over the last 3 years, 9.45%, but he buoys that with strong run defense. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you look at Carolina, okay, they have two really, really good players. And then who else? Right.
That's
Shai Tuttle is Shai Tuttle's a nice run defender, but they really are only getting pass rush from two guys. Okay. You look at Atlanta, there's a lot of potential. That interior group is very, very strong. But you look at the edge group, Lorenzo Carter and Bud Dupree are not great, right? I'm high on Zach Harrison. I loved him as a 3rd-round pick, but he's still got a long ways to go. And Arnold Ebiketie had a nice rookie year, but his rookie year was basically the same as JTS's rookie year, and Bucs fans think he's terrible, right? All right. So then you look at New Orleans. New Orleans, for them, the edge group is probably the most consistent in the NFC South. Cam Jordan, Carl Granderson. I think a lot of people are sleeping on Peyton Turner because he's been injured so much. But, I mean, he's got a career 11%.
He just hasn't played much either.
Exactly. Yeah. But when he plays, he's played well, right? And I'm not huge on Isaiah Foskey. I think that was way overdrafted. I think they took him in, the 2nd round. But that still – Passanois is actually, I think he's a really underrated, and he's like their 5th edge. Now, where New Orleans is very concerning is that interior. Brian Brzee, Kalen Saunders, Nathan Shepard. I mean, Malcolm Roach is a good run defender. So
it's literally a Band-Aid from what they normally have.
The Bucs have the same or better upside than any of the other 3 teams, and a lot of depth and a better floor. So all around, I have all 4 very closely ranked, but for me, it's Tampa Bay, then Atlanta, then New Orleans, and Carolina actually in the 4 spot. Yeah.
Oh,
Brian Burns gets hurt. What's going to happen in Carolina?
Oh yeah.
Well, if Derek Brown gets hurt too, what's going to happen in Carolina?
There you go.
This is true.
But again, I if we're just doing rankings, I definitely just giving them the high upside. You know what I mean? Like, I assume for every team, maybe not for Shaq Barrett, but pretty much for every team, I was assuming perfect world there.
Yeah.
So anyway, that should be coming out tomorrow, but I give you guys the preview. But it's been an interesting, it's been a very interesting exercise going through all of these different position groups.
And with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where does Logan Hall fit in all this?
I've got him as
Will Golston.
Interior defensive lineman 4, right? I mean, I don't think he plays over Yancey. Greg Gaines is really. I think they'll be able to use Hall in taking it kind of back to the Devin White conversation. They'll be able to put him in very specific positions to be as successful as possible. I think he's going to play, to Ken's point, the 4-eye role that Will Golston has vacated, or unless the Bucs re-sign him, but I don't see that happening at this point. He's put on some weight and things like that. I think he could be a successful 4-eye and a nice rotational pass rusher.
And sub, yeah.
So was Logan Hall a reach, in your opinion?
Yes.
Yeah, I think they wanted what's his face in Minnesota, the safety. Why am I blanking on his name? I think that's who they wanted. Lewis Cine.
Yep.
I think that's who they wanted.
Well, they had kind of a group of players that they were.
I think he was number one.
And Hall was a part of them, and Cine went one spot before.
Yeah, Vikings traded ahead.
Man, and again, and I'm just the internal optimist. I'm hoping, with players, you got to give them at least 3-4 years to really know what you have with them. And I know a lot of people have already written Logan Hall off, but again, he's got the physical tools to be a good NFL player. It's just between the shoulders and the top of his head. We got to see what he's got there to really know what you have. And again, I'm hopeful that, maybe he can turn into a serviceable player on.
Remember, Will Golden at the beginning of his career wasn't.
Oh yeah, he was.
So I mean, he kind of found that role that he did really well, and was able to be very serviceable for a long time. So Logan Hall does that, he'll be okay.
Yeah. You make a great point in terms of players need usually about 3 years to really make a good assessment on what they are. With that said, there are certain players, the tape they put out their first year can give you a lot more concern than others. And I think Logan Hall fits into that, where I've been the biggest JTS apologist, right? You know, like I go to war, I will die on that hill. I would not be able to defend what Logan Hall's put on tape nearly as well as I can defend JTS.
Yeah. JTS is just, sometimes he's just that close to getting home, and he's going to eventually, he's going to get it. But,
well, and also his rookie year was basically a wash, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, he was doing things he wasn't used to doing. He was rarely playing. They put JPP in over him, despite unable to move an arm. Like he didn't really have a chance to be successful.
And then keep in mind, he didn't play during the COVID season, so he just was like in college he didn't even play. So when he came in, that's what was kind of impressive to me, what I saw from him. And I'm like, I think eventually it's going to come around to where he'll get it, and that's definitely something I'm hoping will happen. I'm hoping that Todd Bowles and this team will have patience with him so that he can eventually get that. So, G Vegas is saying, hoping Dean and Davis can stay healthy because the depth behind them scares you.
Just remember that the next time you want the Bucs to play man every single snap as well, because that's putting them in some fun situations to open themselves up to getting hurt when you have a 17-game season. I know they've also played a lot of special teams. So hopefully we take that off of their belts a little bit as well. But yeah, if we lose one of them, I'm scared, man. Yeah, I'm scared.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think G Vegas brings up a really great point, because all right, let's just quickly run through the corner room. So you got Jamel Dean, you got Carlton Davis, the studs, right?
Yeah.
1A and 1B, both top 15 to 20 corners in the NFL.
Right.
Amazing. And both of them on what I would consider below market deals, both of them got their second contract, which was amazing. Then you've got Zion McCollum, who has all the physical traits in the world. And look,
is he going to play slot to start?
No.
Okay, they've mentioned it in interviews, so that's why I was curious.
Yeah. He got an opportunity to play the slot, I want to say, against New Orleans last year. When SMB was injured. Was it SMB? One of the starters was injured. From everything I've heard from the rest of the PR guys who have been at OTAs, he's been working on the outside completely. Okay.
Nice.
And with Zion, again, the physical traits are there. I know the coaching staff is very high on him, but I think they see him as the primary backup outside corner if something were to happen to Dean and Davis or Davis. And last year was a rough year for Zion. Like, he was not ready for the mental side of that position. It's a very cerebral position.
Yeah.
Then behind him, you've got D. Delaney, and you've got
we
Josh
know what
Hayes.
he is.
Yeah.
We don't know who
I am hoping D. Delaney wins the slot corner position because, and this is something that Scott Reynolds and I go back and forth on.
Scott wants the Kansas guy? Why?
The Kansas State.
Sorry, Kansas State.
Scott wants surprisingly the Kansas State kid. And I will say Scott got to watch him more than I did, but from the tape that I watched, I have some serious concerns about his ability in the slot. I think Josh Hayes could be a serviceable rotational overhang safety. He's got some size, he's got some pop, he's fast. I worry about his change of direction skills, his agility, things that are really important in the slot.
The kid we got out of UNC in the second round before we got Davis. Why am I blanking on his name? He was very slow in the league and bounced around. MJ Stewart. Yeah.
Well, there are some similarities there. Yeah. I mean, Hayes is definitely fast.
Oh,
It's straight line speed, right?
Yeah.
But to be an effective slot player, guys have two-way goes, right? You got to be able to protect both sides.
Cooper Kupp, baby.
And so I hope the kid proves me wrong. I hope that I take a huge L on it. But I think D. Delaney's proved that he can be a serviceable slot defender, and I hope he wins that job.
Yeah.
And then at safety, it's pretty thin as well. You know, so the starting secondary is awesome, and then you pray for no injury.
Well, we also got a decent, strong safety. I mean, from Seattle. I'm so bad with names today.
Ryan Neal.
Ryan Neal. I've heard nothing but good things at camp. Obviously, I'm not there, but heard some good things. He's got good rapport with the team. I think he was an underrated player last year. I thought we got him at a bargain.
Absolutely.
So it definitely filled a need, and I think he's going to be starting day one. We don't have to worry about strong safety, but nickel cornerback and the depth, man, is a little scary.
Yeah.
And kudos to the Bucs front office for what they were able to do in the offseason with very limited resources. So it's been honestly surprisingly impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting these people re-signed with a bag of Skittles and a couple of nickels and a quarter, that's pretty impressive to be able to.
Lots of guys want to taste the rainbow.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. I'm out, everyone. I'm doing Little Island. Have a good night, everyone.
Just saying.
So again, what Jason Light's been able to accomplish. I know a lot of people don't like him. For whatever reason, I still can't wrap my head around it. But
Still brought y'all Super Bowl.
Yeah, but still, they'll people say what they'll say. I've seen some weird stuff. That's why I've just kind of gotten off of social media, but I'm back now to really focus on the Bucs, and hopefully we can keep this train going now. And Josh, I do want to say thank you for coming on. I really appreciate you taking time. I know you're a busy man with with your schedule and everything, and KB, you're always welcome to come on. Just, hey, give me a link and I'm jump on. You're at home, your family. This is a safe zone. Say whatever you want to say.
I'm sorry I was late today. I didn't realize
I
didn't realize that you meant 7 Eastern. I'm on the East Coast, but I screwed up.
He's on Evan Winter time. For those who know Evan well,
Central.
Evan operates. No, not even Central. There's Evan Standard Time.
Yeah, that's whatever.
Estimated. We call it estimated.
Estimated.
Yeah. Evan Winter works on estimated. He's like, watch out, guys. I got something dropping at 10 a.m. We're like, dude, it's 10:46.
4 p.m. No, it'd be 4 p.m.
Right. So we've coined it. We've coined it estimated time.
Well, guys, I really appreciate you coming on. I want to get one more thing before we go. And Josh, I'm going to start with you. What was the biggest surprise in this offseason for you that you just, I didn't see that coming?
The Kalijah Kancey pick. Yeah. I mean, we have Peter Report. We really thought the Bucs were going to be in on tackle. I was really high on it's my turn in the show to forget a kid's name. I was high on the tackle out of Oklahoma. Yeah.
Anton Harrison.
Thank you, Anton Harrison. And given the type of defensive lineman that Todd Bowles has historically pursued, I don't think anybody saw him picking a 6'1", 280-pound kid. Now, with that said, I'm stoked that he did it from an analyst perspective because he wasn't the best defensive tackle in the draft, but he has the best pass rushing tape out of any defensive tackle.
I think he also has the highest upside, in my personal opinion.
I think
it's one of the lowest floors as well.
I still think, Jalen Carter at 100% is still going to be, it would be a better than Kalijah at 100%.
That's if he plays.
Well, yeah, but you just said the upside. Upside would be Jalen Carter plays.
Okay, and I'm not trying to throw Aaron Donald out there, but when you have the pieces around Kancey, I think he's in a very good position to succeed given his draft position.
The pieces around Jalen Carter.
Yeah, but he's also may not even be a starter year 1 or year 2. You never know.
You're moving the goalpost, Ken.
No, I'm just.
Are we talking about who has the highest upside? The highest upside is Jalen Carter. If you want to say, when we consider off the field stuff, who has the best chance to get to 80% of their upside?
Okay,
fine.
I think Kancey has a higher upside than Carter.
Wow,
I'm throwing
that's
that
a
one
take.
out there.
That's a
Hot
throwing
take.
that one out
I
there.
love it. I love it
All
right
right.
here. KB,
But I
who
would
is-
say that would be the biggest surprise.
all right.
I mean, Josh has the number one surprise because, again, I was on with Cansey lovers on draft night and Plus and Mark, and seeing their faces light up like a Christmas tree. Best part of the draft experience this past year. But for me, it'll probably just be Baker Mayfield at quarterback. I mean, I think on the outset, it kind of made sense. I think financially is where everything worked out. But, I mean, Todd Bowles was here when they decided to not move forward with Jameis Winston. I'm not saying Jameis and Baker are the same quarterback in that regard. But, there's the turnover propensity. There's the alpha leader. It's kind of like the script was kind of already been seen in this organization, already been played out with Bowles. So I thought he was just going to go with a little bit safer of an option. I'm actually kind of excited for Baker. Everyone knows my opinions on Baker. I think this is a really good situation for him. I think it's a really good situation for the Bucs as an organization to, again, the Seattle hit with Geno last year. Geno's in his 30s. Baker's in his mid-20s. I mean, if you hit on Baker, you have potentially a quarterback for 5-6 years, which we know this team had. Oh, geez. Jay with that with the beer hat. So that to me is the biggest surprise. But again, I think it makes a lot of sense for both sides there. And again, there's the scheme, fit. I'm sure, Canales has his friend who obviously knows the McVay system. They both probably know McVay pretty well. And I'm sure McVay probably had to give his green light, for Baker to be in that system. And, hey, let's see what he has for a full season, not coming off of a plane and going out to play.
Yep.
Yeah. So for me, it was just free agency. Just the moves that Jason Light was able to make with the amount of money. And we've seen this over and over and over again. I should stop even being surprised by it and just trust the process. But what Jason Light continues to do is, with the little bit of money that he has, he's bringing in quality players to make this team competitive at least. And the one thing that I like about him that with, the New Orleans Saints are forever in salary cap hell. They've been kicking the can down the road since 2011, and it's just continually happening. Still doing it.
Carr, baby.
Yeah. And, they managed to get these players, and then they cycle through a lot of good players. And again, they got a Super Bowl to show for it. I'll put it that way. With all the big moves and all the stuff that they've done, they've got a Super Bowl to show.
That was like 10 years ago, though, Gene.
I know, but I'm just that's the whole point I'm trying to make here is the moves that they've made. Hey, we'll revisit the salary cap later on, but they managed to.
But the Bucs have also done that though too. But I think they've done it very strategically to help them long term.
Yeah, but like right now, the Bucs are eating it right now, and I think they'll be in a better position as the years progress to where they can do a little bit more. They'll have more flexibility.
That cap's going to go
next year,
up,
as a matter of fact. Mike Greenberg's willingness to eat all of the Brady dead cap hit this year means next year they'll be in solid position. Ken, I need to address something you just said. First of all, the Saints' last Super Bowl win was in 2010. That was 13 years ago.
13, okay.
13 years ago, I was willing and proud to take my shirt off at the beach. Don't you take away those fond memories from me and Saints fans.
I was a junior in high school with pimples, so we don't have to talk about that.
Don't you take those things away from us, all right? Some of us need to hold on to our 2010 memories because they help us get through the day.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to introduce you to Jono Barnes, then you guys can reminisce together.
That's all I'm saying. I mean, I have looked at, they've had opportunity after opportunity, going to the playoffs, and, nothing's happened. So, it is what it is. But I'm just happy, kind of getting back to my original point. I'm happy that Jason Light is he's like, okay, we're not kicking the can down the road anymore. Let's get past this and pay our bills and let's move on. And, again, and there will be a Baker Mayfield apology tour if he does better than I think he will. So I'll just put it out there.
If he
'Cause I
takes the
wanted-
Bucs to the playoffs, I'll buy a jersey. I'll put
Well,
that
I was
on this
gonna
podcast.
say, Gene. So, what is your expectation for Baker? Like, let's get this on the record.
Oh, you okay? Get it on the record.
Yeah.
I
So, are we talking PFF grade? Are we talking statistical performance?
I would probably do like TDs, interceptions, if you want to throw yards.
yeah,
in there,
let's
sure.
let's do TDs to interceptions. I think if it just kind of and again, I want this to work, especially with the running game. If the running game is somewhat successful, I think that Baker Mayfield will be just fine. You keep your wide receivers healthy. I could see him having a decent season.
Bucs receivers being healthy? You just doomed them.
Knocked on wood.
I'm going like if Baker only throws for like 4,200 yards with, let's say, like a 22, 23 TDs, I'll be respectable for him. Let's go like 11 picks. I think that's a very good year.
Okay.
I think the Bucs do pretty well if that's what he does.
All right, give me 1 second. I'm gonna give you where I'm at.
And while you're doing that, Plus says 25 to 8 TD to interception ratio.
To 8?
25 to 8
In 17 games for Baker?
Okay. So
I thought it was being nice at 11 or 12.
I'm gonna go with. There are lots of people who don't like PFF and their grading system. I think for quarterbacks, they're actually pretty damn accurate. So I'm gonna say a 75 grade, PFF grade, which would put him like between 13th and 18th in the league.
Okay.
I think that's a pretty high end outcome for him.
Yeah.
Well, think about it. The top like 7 are basically already established, pretty much all in the AFC too. So that tells you he's a pretty good quarterback in the NFC if that's where he lands.
Yeah. So that's what I'm putting him on. 75 PFF grade. That's a high end outcome because if you look at I just did like a simple regression analysis on him, and I think it came out to like a 63 grade. So I'm projecting quite a bit of improvement over his last couple of years.
Well, do you have any stats behind that? I'm just trying to envision what that would look like.
What a 63 would look like? Yeah.
Yeah.
Give me a second. I'll give you like a similar performance from last year. So a guy with a 63 PFF grade last year was Matt Ryan.
He barely played. So that's hard for me to envision.
Here, let me try the year before.
I mean,
the guy with a 63 grade in 2021 was
Gina?
Baker Mayfield.
Oh,
No
2021 Mayfield.
I had that just meant the moment was meant to be.
Exactly.
Or you could think Drew Lock from 2020. So you're talking low end, like we're talking like bottom 5, bottom 6 quarterback, which is
Hey, but you got to play better than that, man.
right. Which is when you do a weighted regression over his last. It's simple weighted regression. So basically, I take his PFF grade from last year and I give it a weight of 5. The year before gets a weight of 4, and the year before gets a weight of 3. You take that total cumulative score and you divide it by 12. And that he comes out to about a 63 because the last 2 years have been really bad. You can't just throw them away. You can talk about them. You can give them context. Last year, he didn't have time to get to know his systems. Even with Carolina, he was traded late in the offseason, like before training camp, right?
Summer,
yeah.
The year before that, he had the shoulder injury on his non-throwing shoulder, but it completely screwed up his mechanics, his throwing motion, everything, right?
Yeah.
So that's context, but he still played poorly in those 2 years. So you have to be able to factor those in. Now, like I said, with the weighted regression there, that's a 63, and I'm still projecting him for a 75, which is the equivalent of his 2019 season, the year before he went off and took them to a playoff win.
Yeah.
And I think that's
and I think with him being a little bit more mobile, that's my hope is that he can make some plays with his legs, and that kind of opens things up for your Chris Godwins and who we haven't even mentioned in the whole show. We haven't even mentioned Chris Godwin. So here's a guy that a year removed from a catastrophic injury, and then he was coming into his own in the back end of the season. There's another guy you got to expect big things from this year as well. If he can
Maybe I
develop
sound old school. I don't want Baker running around back there. I want him in that pocket and rolling out, on design, play action. That's what I want.
G Vegas, that's actually the same numbers I had in my head, 28 and 11. Yeah, actually to the T. The other thing to consider, and this would be a point for the potential downside, Baker loves to roll right. And the right side of the Bucs line currently projects to be rookie Cody Mock and Luke Gedeke.
But with that, though, you can see that's a nice thing with that is what I'm worried about is any kind of, shotgun is where I'm really afraid of the right-hand side of the line. But when you're rolling right, you have a tight end typically chipping or you have someone short, shallow crossing coming across the field. So, he can easily get the ball away, but that's obviously playing the assumption game. I'm saying from a quarterback standpoint, at least in my experience, when you're rolling right, the right side of the line isn't too important. You just want to make sure that edge guy just doesn't, that he was at least coming down the line a little bit before coming after you.
He just he creates his own pressure. Like, these are things that we need to acknowledge. These are things that he does.
Yeah.
So, I think that there's a really high upside and that it could bode well for the Bucs playoff chances, but it's not like there's no downside. There's a reason the Bucs were able to get Baker despite not having much cash.
Yeah. Well, this is his chance. I think this is a perfect opportunity for him to set something up for, years to come, maybe where he can at least, try to get another contract. This is going to be his opportunity right here. So
maybe I'm overranking the Bucs run game. I'm expecting a good step up. Maybe that's just why my TDs are a little bit lower than you all.
Could be that. Yep. They don't really have a goal line back, though.
They don't, but with that, again, I think there might be QB rushing touchdowns. Because, again, rolling right.
Just give it to Vita, fridge style.
There we go.
Why haven't we done that once?
All right, guys. Well, thank you again for coming on. I really appreciate it. I can't believe it's been an hour already. We'll be back here doing this again next week. Josh, thank you again. Any major articles coming out you want to tell everybody about? Or
he gave us a tease.
Yeah. So I've got two series that I'm working on in tandem right now. So I'm doing the ranking the NFC South position groups, and that'll culminate kind of with a overall ranking, where I see all of these teams. I'm also, as I go, I'm trying to put together some, here's what to expect with Dave Canales' offense, looking back at the Seahawks last year and trying to find trends based on certain games. So I think right now I'm working on when they played the Bucs last year. So looking at that game, I think I'm about 5 drives into charting. Charting is a very tedious venture.
I don't have the patience.
And they
for it.
basically gave up the run game too in that game. So there's a lot of passing you got to look at there.
Yeah. So those are the 2 that I'm working on now. Later in the summer, I'll take a look at the free agent acquisitions that the Bucs have, and
sorry, I can't with Jay.
Jay,
so
go have a
looking
beer,
at
man.
looking at their free agent acquisitions and doing some film rooms on each of them from their film last year. And then the big thing that I've just started trying to get is I'm trying to find 2020 Browns film so that I can pull together, like, this is the best of Baker and what he could provide, because he was in a similar offense to what the Bucs are running this year, and try and put that together. I will plug somebody on Twitter. JC Delator he went back and looked at all of Baker's, like, every season, and he's done some really cool threads on that, but I'm trying to pull some all 22 to give you some different angles on it. So so that's kind of what I've been working on, or what I will be working on. And then I'm doing some summer scouting on 2024 draft class. And I don't know if that'll turn into articles. It might just be some Twitter stuff. So,
sorry if you know Jay Pless's comments.
they're going at it here.
They're at war right now.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm working on.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I can't wait to check out the articles. Thank you, Emily. I appreciate it. Will the Brewer, Jay, of course, Michael Pless, G Vegas, TB2 Crew, and
King Cook.
King Cook, of course, man. He always brings it every time we're on. And we will be back every Wednesday again. TB Teams 4. I appreciate you guys. And again, KB, what about you? Anything special going on, or any last comments?
He's got a new job that he's
let's
loving.
get through. What was that?
So you got a new job that you're loving.
Hey, we got our first 2 sales in the past 2 weeks.
Let's go.
A pretty big one and a smaller one, but not too bad. We still got the end of the quarter coming up. So the next 2 weeks, I might be a little hit and miss.
A little stressed out?
Well, just a little bit, but you know what? Things are going really well. And thank you again for trying that out, Josh. But yeah, no, I mean, just really, we're about to enter the dead zone here in the NFL. So, make sure you all get out, get some sun, enjoy the summer. And then once August comes around, we'll be rocking and rolling.
Yeah. And guys too, if anybody's getting the Sunday Ticket on YouTube, let me know what your thoughts are on it. I'm real curious to get that point of it. Something we
could have
really
a whole
about.
Podcast on that, Gene. It's so good.
Yeah.
I love YouTube TV.
I'm kind of on the fence, so we'll see. But anyway, so these guys are really going at it. He said he'll change the flight time.
Okay, so if any of you are in Minnesota or going to the Minnesota Vikings game, you can catch Pless and Jay going at each other. So if you want tickets to that brawl, let me know and I'll get you an invite.
Definitely better than the Mayweather fight.
I'm not a UFC guy, but I just saw some UFC fight that ended in 16 seconds.
Yeah,
a
couple days ago.
It was embarrassing. Well, anyway, guys, and for me, I just want to say thank everybody for checking us out. We're going to be doing this again, man, every week. I will have my computer. I'm actually on a laptop right now. I'm not on my main computer, but I'll have everything set up. Off season's over. It's time to get back to work, and we will have a special guest on next week. And I'm going to try to get some different people from different teams to come on, and we'll have some fun with this. But anyway, we're out. Everybody have a great day. Have a great weekend. Like he said, get out and get some sun. Enjoy this, and we'll be doing this again. Peace.
See you.